The residence at 42nd Street was entering a slow state of decay, not physical decay, something more complete. Since the death of Buster 92 days ago, the house had begun to feel less like a home and more like an empty container. For Sarah, the silence wasn't a lack of noise, it was a presence. The house was no longer holding a life, it was holding the remains of one. At exactly 2:14 p.m. on a Tuesday, Sarah was in the attic. She was moving old boxes. Then the silence broke. A short, sharp yip. Sarah froze. The sound was high-pitched, rhythmic, impossible to mistake. It was Buster's bark, the exact sound. Buster had been buried 3 months earlier. His body was under the oak tree in the backyard. That fact was solid, final. But the sound had happened inside the attic. It came from the far corner, behind a stack of moth-eaten winter coats. Sarah stared at the coats, then she moved toward them. With each step, the air became colder. There was a smell of ozone and wet wool. When she put the coats away, she found the wallpaper behind them. It was not merely old, it was wrong. The wallpaper was bulging outward, pulsing with a slow, steady rhythm, as if something on the other side was breathing against it. Then the bark occurred again, closer this time. Now Sarah heard the defect inside it. The sound was not clean. There was a metallic echo beneath the bark. Sarah didn't retreat. She didn't call anyone. Driven by a connection she had not been able to bury with Buster, she tore at the wallpaper. Behind it, there was only a jagged rectangular void, a hole filled with sickly yellow light. The glow didn't illuminate the attic. It seemed to replace the shadows around it. A fluorescent hum began to bleed into the room. Somewhere inside the yellow, Buster barked again. Sarah stepped into the light. The moment her trailing foot left the attic floorboards, the house behind her ceased to render. Ahead, infinite corridors of putrid yellow wallpaper, damp beige carpet, ceiling lights buzzing in long, repeating rows. The air was warm, stale and wet. Sarah tried to speak. Her voice died almost immediately. The hallway seemed to absorb sound before it could travel more than a few feet. The building swallowed her words. She began to walk. Every corner led to another identical corridor. Same wallpaper, same carpet, same lights, the same dead air. The repetition was not only visual, it was psychological. The first sign of the presence was not something she saw, it was something she heard. A second set of footsteps began to follow her own. The footsteps were perfectly timed at first, then slightly wrong. When Sarah stopped, they continued for exactly half a second. Then they fell silent. Sarah turned around. There was nothing behind her, only the endless yellow. She walked faster. The second footsteps returned. Whatever was following her was trying to copy her movement, but it could not match her completely. Sarah ran. The carpet squelched beneath her shoes. The hallway ahead stretched longer as she moved. The building did not behave like a place. It behaved like a trap, adjusting itself around her panic. She turned 4 right corners. Instead of returning to where she began, she entered a cavernous office space. Thousands of rusted filing cabinets stretched into the gloom. At the center of a 4-way intersection, there was a long desk. On the desk lay a single damp folder. Sarah opened it. Inside was Buster's death certificate. but the text was shifting. The word deceased flickered around the page. Then it was overwritten. Asset, retired for recycling. Sarah stared at the phrase, and the shape of the place became clearer. This was not a spirit world. It was the cutting room floor of reality, a place where discarded things were kept, things that had fallen out of the world, things the world no longer needed. Buster had not returned. He had been filed away, and Sarah, by following the sound, had crossed into the same hidden place. A wet, rhythmic breathing began above her. It did not sound like lungs. It sounded like a ventilation system trying to move air through pipes filled with sludge. Sarah looked up. The ceiling tiles were leaking gray squares, small blank pieces falling like digital snow. Where the squares touched the floor, the carpet disappeared, simply erased. The world around her was failing in patches. Sarah crawled into a narrow vent. The yellow wallpaper pressed against her face. In the darkness, she found hundreds of documents, all addressed to her. She took one. It was a log entry dated 1 year into the future. Memory leak detected. Redundant data identified. Move to level 0 for recycling. The meaning was simple enough to understand. The backrooms were not just a maze, they were storage. Sarah had followed a sound into the place where lost things were processed. Buster had been taken first, or copied, or broken into something useful, and now Sarah had become part of the same operation. A loose file, a damaged memory, a piece of grief the system wanted to remove. Then the presence appeared at the end of the vent, a towering faceless shape made of static and missing textures. It moved in short, unnatural jumps. It did not look angry or even alive. It looked like a function, a task being carried out. It reached toward Sarah with long hands made of grey static. The vent narrowed around her. The space itself was bringing her back. Sarah burst out of the vent and landed in her own living room, or something arranged to resemble it. The proportions were wrong. The sofa was too long. The ceiling was too low. In the center of the room sat the source of the bark. It was not Buster. It was a heap of raw matter, carpet fibers, copper wiring, wet insulation, and translucent human-like skin. All of it pulsed together in a shape that almost suggested an animal. Almost. Then a slit opened in the center of the mess. From that slit came Buster's bark, perfect and clear. The system had used the one signal Sarah would never ignore. Before the final overwrite, ensure your parameters are tracked by hitting the like button and subscribing to Eldritch Stories. Your engagement helps maintain our presence in the main render. The faceless entity entered the room behind her. Its fingers touched her shoulder. The cold spread instantly through her body. Gray checkered board. Squares spread across her fingers, then her wrists, then her arms. Her body was being replaced in pieces, not killed, converted. Across the room, Sarah saw a window. Through the grime and static, she saw her own attic. She saw herself from 15 minutes earlier, standing by the winter coats, looking at the bulging wallpaper. Hearing the bark for the first time, Sarah ran to the glass. She tried to scream, but the glass did not carry her voice. The conversion moved through her throat. Her mouth opened for one final warning. No human sound came out. Instead, a sharp, perfect terrier bark echoed through the room. Sarah looked at her reflection one last time. There was no face left, only a yellow featureless wall. The file was closed. The asset was recycled.